Hey there folks, I'm out here in my front yard and I have some bad news for you guys, which is that my Chamaerops humilis has just had spear pull. I was out here and I saw the spear was looking a little bit brown, so I gave it a good tug and it pulled right out, which, you know, I'm not, you know, I think it'll still make it, but certainly not good. And last night it got down to about 19. Today it's supposed to get down to 17, so I am gonna have to do some sort of makeshift cover probably, you know, so that we don't get ice and water in there in that growing point, because that really could kill it. And I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised it pulled out. It wasn't looking too bad. I was actually previously gonna make a video on how palms take a while to you know, for damage to show up. And yeah, and then the spear pulled out. So yeah, now I just want to make a video on this because, you know, that's really not good to see. And here's the spear right here, you know, pretty brown, a little bit of green at the top, I guess, but pretty mushy and not good. This is just what happens when you have a cold event, and I'm kind of surprised to see that. But yeah, that's not good to see. Anyways, I mean, the palm overall, I think, looks not that bad, and it's definitely been a worse than average winter. You know, I mean, somehow we were able to avoid, thankfully, you know, Florida got a cold event, New England got you know, a lot of snow. Somehow we were able to avoid a lot of that, but we did certainly get some elements of it, and it did get pretty, you know, it got pretty cold. We had probably at least 8 or 10 nights in the teens, at least this winter, and there was like a 2-week period where we had a lot of lows in the teens. I think the lowest we got down to was like 12, and then we had like 2 nights that were 14 and a number that were like 17 or 18. And yeah, after that, I mean, it wasn't looking too bad. And it just basically what I was going to mention was that you know, this damage can take time to show up. You know, it wasn't looking too bad, a little bit of browning, and then later we had weeks where, you know, the lows were higher, but it just, you know, it takes time. You know, it takes time for damage to show up. Plant can still be looking completely green after, you know, a super bad freeze, and then it just, you know, it takes time for the damage to show up and get to the leaves, and the leaves to really show the browning. So yeah, it's I mean, I'm kind of surprised. It's done pretty well, considering that it's definitely been a worse than average winter, and it gives me hope for future winters. And obviously the green form is a little less hardy than the blue form, and I do need to get the blue form Chamaerops humilis cerifera. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be more worried if I hadn't had this happen before, but actually last year, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just this palm in particular, because last year, it wasn't the cold. I had this thing out for a number of nights, but I brought it inside for the coldest nights. I mean, I'm pretty certain it was not the cold. It never got that cold when this palm was out. It was in a pot. And after the winter, it had no damage or anything, but the spear, 2 spears actually, just completely pulled right out. And I was really worried, and it just recovered completely fine. And it did end up sending out these stunted fronds, which were also the first to show damage this winter, because they're, you know, smaller and stunted. You can see that little stunted frond there, completely brown. But no, it recovered fine. And actually, the good thing that I actually just noticed, which is that there's a second spear in here that is like 100% green. And I can barely reach it because there's little spines. No, that spear feels pretty green. Feels pretty firm, and I don't want to give it too much of a tug, but no, that spear actually looks really good, and the other one pulled right out, but you can see in there it actually looks pretty nice and green. All the petioles look super green, and this new frond looks extremely green. So gives me hope. You know, spear pull's not as bad, may not be as bad as it sounds, but you know, I was kind of surprised, and since we're supposed to get down to 17 tonight, I might cover the growing point. I wasn't going to give it any protection, you know, before it had spear pull, but now I might. And you know, my protection plans are still pretty much the same, because I wasn't, you know, it seemed like it was on a trend of warming, and I think it is, because after tonight, which, you know, we have back-to-back yesterday night, tonight, 19 and 17 Fahrenheit, which is not great, but after that, it looks like the lowest is going to be like 24 or something, 25, and then most nights lows in the 30s, and then highs in the 40s or 50s. So it looks like, yeah, maybe it will start to warm up, and if that's the case, then I'll be very happy, to say the least, and I just can't wait for spring. But yeah, that's really, you know, it's unfortunate to see the spear pull. I don't know what I'll do. I was, you know, thankfully that the other spear is green. That still gives me hope, but I will be monitoring this palm closely. And yeah, the thing about these palms is that you know, they're sort of, in terms of how damage shows up, they're sort of I guess you could say the good and the bad, which is that, the bad is that, they can take a while for damage to show up. So you think a palm is fine, you have a bad freeze, it may look okay, and then it could take weeks, sometimes even like a month or something before you have spear pull or you have some bad event, the palm, starts to really show damage, which is obviously not great. But I guess you could say the good side is that sometimes the damage looks worse than it actually is. Palm could completely defoliate, spear can pull and everything, but as long as that growing point in there is alive, that's what really matters. It can push out new growth. And it's important that when you have brown dead fronds from a freeze, you want to cut all that off. And again, I'm not one for cutting off palm fronds, but when you have a dead frond, especially after a freeze, you don't need to cut dead fronds off normally necessarily, but especially after a freeze, you want to concentrate all that palm's energy into pushing out new growth rather than sending energy to maybe a petiole that's still green but the frond's completely dead. Just cut them all off. Maybe even if there's still a green frond but the spear's pulled, I would cut them off. Obviously this still looks completely green, so the palm still looks good, but not too pleased to see that spear pull. That was kind of unexpected, but I sort of have another advantage here, which is that my this is a suckering palm, a multi-trunking palm. So when I was in Virginia Beach, I was there in March of this year, and that's when the palms were looking their worst, obviously, because it's right after winter. And all of them look fantastic, by the way. I didn't see one palm that really looked terrible or really beat up. Palmettos look great and everything. But I saw one Chamaerops that had, like, the main trunk, I'm guessing several years ago, had died, had spear pull completely gone, but the suckers were nice and green and growing back. So that's the advantage of suckering palms. And this is the only suckering palm I actually have planted outside, I think. Yeah, it's the only suckering palm I really have. The hardiest, actually, I guess, yeah, Chamaerops humilis is probably the hardiest suckering palm of all. Either that, some people say Chamaerops Virgiana, maybe in a dry climate at least. Solid palmetto is very tough as well, but that's another advantage. And obviously this sucker here looks thoroughly toast, thoroughly burnt, kind of crispy, but because it's so small and that just shows damage easier. This one's still got a little green in it, and it was nice and green, and then like I said, it takes a little while for damage to show up, so it just browned out recently. But overall the palm still looks good, and that green spear in there, let me just I'm gonna give this thing a tug just to see. Oh, look at that. No, that's not good. All right, folks, well, it looked green, but no, it tugged out. I didn't pull very hard. I hope it recovers. I am gonna cover this growing point probably, but it's amazing. This new frond looks fantastic, but no, spear's just pulled out, I guess. Maybe it is just this palm. I'm not sure, but we'll just have to see, because it's these palms can certainly they can take spear pull and recover, like mine last year. Like I said, spear pulled and completely recovered, but we'll just have to see, folks. And not too pleased about that. I probably should have covered it, but I wanted to sort of test its limits, and if this thing recovers, I hope it recovers, and I'll keep you guys updated, because it still looks nice and green here. But thanks for watching, folks. Chamaerops humilis here, and I'll let you guys know how it does. I really hope it recovers, hope it does well, and we'll just have to see. And thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, folks. Take care.